Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Mono Black Aggro. Alright guys, Ixalan Pro Tour happened over the weekend, and I think Adam Jensen actually ran this list. There was several people who ran this list during the Pro Tour itself, but we're going to go over his main board and kind of make up our own sideboard for it. But this is Mono Black Aggro, a very fast deck that has Bantu the Glorified in it, which is kind of surprising, but it's very fast, very effective, and did quite a bit of work in the Pro Tour. But of course, before I get into the video, make sure you hit the like on the video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a video on the channel, and when we go live on stream right here on YouTube. But without further ado, let's get right into the deck. We have 4 Dread Wanderer, a 1-mana 2/1 Zombie Jackal. Dread Wanderer enters the battlefield tapped, and you can pay 3, return Dread Wanderer from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery if you only have 1 or fewer cards in hand. So this is a great card for a turn 1 play. So it's a 2/1 for 1 on turn 1. It comes in tapped, so that is kind of bad, but you don't attack with it anyway, so that's fine. So it can't be acting as a blocker for you, which is good because this is an aggro deck. You want to be attacking out as often as possible. But Dread Wanderer on turn 2 attacking in for 2 is great, and then in like the mid to late game, so like on turn 6, 7, or 8 when you have no cards in hand, you can actually bring this guy back from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped if you, again, only have 1 or fewer cards in hand. So Dread Wanderer is going to be a great beater for you over and over again, and it's going to be just super frustrating for your opponent as they try to find ways during game 1, if they don't have any graveyard removal, to deal with the Dread Wanderer. Moving up from Dread Wanderer, we have 4 Night Market Lookout, a 1-mana 1/1 human rogue. Whenever Night Market Lookout becomes tapped, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this is basically a 2/1 again for 1 attacking on turn 2, but it gains you 1 life as well. So that is super important in the mid to late game against another aggressive strategy or another strategy that's trying to go wider than you are in mid to late game. So Night Market Lookout coming down as a 1-mana 1/1, again right beside the Dread Wanderer, just a fantastic beater. And this can actually block on the turns played as well, so it's fantastic overall, and again, just a great tempo play for us overall. Moving up though, we have 3 Legion Conquistador, a 1-mana 1/2 Vampire Soldier. Whenever Vicious Conquistador attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. I think I might have said Legion Conquistador instead of Vicious, but I meant Vicious. Vicious Conquistador is a great 1-mana 2/1. It's very similar to the Night Market Lookout in that whenever it gets tapped, your opponent loses 1 life, but you don't gain 1 life. So Vicious Conquistador is not as good as the Night Market Lookout for us, but it's still very good in that it's making sure that our opponent is losing 2 life whenever we start attacking out with our creatures, even though we don't even get in for actual damage. If we just get tapped on the Vicious Conquistador or the Night Market Lookout, they're going to lose 1 life. We're going to gain 1 life thanks to Night Market Lookout, and they're just going to lose 1 life with Vicious Conquistador. Again, it's a great tempo play, and even if we're behind, we can still attack out into a squad of creatures and still be able to do damage. Moving up from this, we have 4 Glaives Leaves Siphoner, one of the best 2-drops in black, a 2-mana 2/1 human rogue with menace. Whenever Glaives Leaves Siphoner attacks or enters the battlefield, you get 1 energy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, draw a card and lose 1 life. So in an aggressive strategy, this guy is going to be getting in 2, 3, maybe even 4 times and giving you 2 or maybe even 3 abilities to draw a card and lose 1 life. So in the mid to late game for us, for an aggressive strategy, we're going to be running out of cards out of our hands so quickly. Glaives Leaves Siphoner helps to kind of give us some more card advantage in the mid to late game, and then kind of just last the match a little bit longer than our opponent can before we actually go for the win. But the Glaives Leaves Siphoner having menace is what makes this card basically a menace. A 2-mana 2/1 that if it's played on turn 2, it's going to get in on turn 3 unless we're playing up against another aggressive strategy or another strategy that's going to go wide, like a Monument strategy or the mono white vampire strategy we talked about yesterday. The Glaives Leaves Siphoner is crazy powerful, and that's why it's 4 of in the actual deck. Moving up, we have 4 Scrapheap Scrounger, a 2-mana 3/2 construct. It can't block, but it is a 3/2, so it does get in for 3. You can pay to exile another creature card from your graveyard, return Scrapheap Scrounger from the graveyard to the battlefield. So again, this is another card that has really aggressive recursion for our opponent. So if they get to burn all the removal spells on our board, or they get to board wipe us, that doesn't really matter that much to us because we can bring back a Dread Wanderer, we can bring back a Scrapheap Scrounger, all these kind of value cards for us to make sure we're either triggering something for Bantu the Glorified, and that's something that dies to turn him on, or we just have the ability to kind of bring back our board state over and over again again, until our opponent is dead. Moving up from Scrap Heap, we have one Bantu the Glorified. This is a 3-mana 4/6 god. It's a 1-of. Menace Indestructible. Bantu the Glorified can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn, and you can pay to sacrifice another creature. Scry 1, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So this is, again, one of those things where if we have a Scrap Heap Scrounger and it's not doing anything, or it can't attack out without dying, we'll just pay to sacrifice it, scry 1, and be able to do a 1-point life swing for ourselves and our opponent. And it also turns on Bantu the Glorified, which is a menaced indestructible creature. So it's a great way to get in when we have no other options to, and it's a fantastic 1-of. I might even think this could be a 2-of in the actual deck, but this again is Adam Jensen's list, and this is just a 1-of in his deck. Moving up from Bantu, though, we have 3 Yahenni Undying Partisan, a 3-mana 2/2 Aetherborn Vampire. Remember, it's a legendary, so that's why there's only 3, not 4. It has haste, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahenni, and sacrifice another creature. Yahenni gains indestructible until end of turn. So, just like with Bantu the Glorified, we have a way to make this guy indestructible and trigger Bantu by sacrificing a creature for free, because there's no mana to spend on this guy for that. So we have a Scrap Heap Scrounger or a Dread Wonder, again, with the recursion there, to bring back Yahenni, or give Yahenni indestructible so it can continue to attack out on turn 4. Now Yahenni, because of the way it works, it can become a quite large threat against a wide board state, especially because we have some board wipes in the actual main board for us. And yeah, Yahenni can get out of control really quickly, so keep that in mind for sure. But also keep in mind that our opponent is probably going to want to spend some removal on Yahenni as soon as possible. So make sure he doesn't come down alone. Make sure he comes down with some friends on the battlefield to make sure he has indestructible. And the last 4 creatures in the main board, we have 4 Bone Picker, a 4-mana 3/2 bird. Bone Picker costs 3 colorless less to cast if a creature died this turn. It has flying and death touch. So Bone Picker is going to most likely come down as a 1-mana 3/2 with flying and death touch, which is insane value. So good. Again, guys, I've talked about Bone Picker many a time on the channel. I think Bone Picker is a fantastic card, and it's awesome to see this in Adam Jensen's list as a 4-of. Bone Picker is such a great card, and we have so many ways to interact with our opponent or ourselves to make sure that Bone Picker comes down for just 1 mana. Super good. A 3/2 flyer with Death Touch. You cannot beat it. But that is all the creatures for us. We have 27 in total. Let's get on to the spells here. We have 4 Fatal Push. Again, a fantastic uncommon here. It's a 1-mana instant. Destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. Then it has Revolt. Destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less. Instead, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn. So if we're trying to get off a Bantu the Glorified, paying 2 mana, triggering a Revolt because we're sacrificing a creature, we can actually play out a Fatal Push for free, or not for free, but for the higher converted mana cost for 1 mana to kill something. So we have a lot of ways of interacting on our board if our opponent isn't going to be having creatures on their board either. So Fatal Push is fantastic for us. It's like the best 1-drop in black. It's going to be that way probably until rotation. I don't see anything changing so far, but it's just great. Moving on from this, we have 2 Walk the Plank. This is a new card that's in here from Ixalan. A 2-mana sorcery, destroy target non-merfolk creatures. So if you guys noticed in Pro Tour, I didn't see hardly any merfolk or any merfolk at all. And Walk the Plank is going to make sure that we kill basically everything just for 2 mana. It is a sorcery speed spell, so that does mean we have to cast it on our side of the field, so that is a little annoying, but Walk the Plank is still just unconditional removal for 2 mana, except for non-merfolk creatures, and I don't think that's going to change until probably Rivals for Ixalan, so keep that in mind, guys. Walk the Plank is super good in this current meta. Moving up from this, we have 3 Bantu's Last Reckoning, a 3-mana sorcery, destroy all creatures, lands you control, don't untap during your next untap step. So this is a fantastic way to make sure we can have Yahenni be indestructible and Bantu the Glorified be indestructible, then board wipe the entire board, turn on a Bantu, and then swing out with Yahenni and Bantu for the game-ending win or something like that. Bantu's Last Reckoning is super good for us. Now, keep in mind, in the mid to late game, this is where we want to use it. We don't want to use it in the early game because this can really put us behind a turn or 2 turns thanks to the lands don't untap during your next untap step effect here. But Bantu's Last Reckoning is still a fantastic card for us as far as getting our aggro out as quickly as possible and getting our tempo out against a wider board state than ours. That is it for spells. Let's move on to artifacts. We have 1 Heart of Kira. This is just a 1-of in here. A 2-mana 4/4 legendary artifact vehicle with flying and vigilance and crew 3. So its secondary ability is having a loyalty counter removed from a planeswalker we control, but we don't have planeswalker in this deck. So the way we're going to be crewing with this is either tapping multiple creatures to crew Heart of Kiran, or just having a Scrap Heap Scrounger to crew Heart of Kiran as well, because we actually can use this as a blocker or attacker since it does have vigilance. But flying is very important in the meta right now, and a Heart of Kiran is going to help us get there, along with 3 Aether Sphere Harvester. This is a 3-mana 3/5 vehicle with flying. When Aether Sphere Harvester enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. Pay 1, Aether Sphere Harvester gains lifelink until end of turn, and it only has crew for 1. So this is a fantastic tempo play for us, as it does gain its life. It's a giant butt for us to be able to block creatures with, and it only has crew for 1, so everything in our deck can actually crew this as well. So it's a super fun card for us, and a great way to gain the advantage back in the mid to late game against a more go wide or go big opponent. But that is it for the actual cards in the main board. Let's go over lands real quick. We have 3 If Near Dead lands and 17 swamp. That's right, we're running 20 land. I know you guys are going to notice this on the stream, but I'm probably going to get mana screwed a lot. Even though this is a very low mana curve for us, I just have the worst luck, so we'll find out what happens though. But that is the full 60. It's a great way to be aggressive, a great way to kind of get in on our opponent, turn over turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and be able to maybe board wipe on turn 5, or play out Bantu and then continue to attack out by sacrificing our creatures also, bringing them back thanks to our hand being empty, and then again just getting some extra life gain with Night Market Lookout and cards like Aether's for Harvester. But it's a fantastic way to be really effective and really quickly overtake our opponent in the mid to late game. But let's say we're in the back foot against control, or something that goes wider than us or larger than us. Let's go over the sideboard here. We have 4 duress. This is going to be going up against the control strategy here. 1 mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. So anything about like a fumigate, a settle the wreckage. A settle the wreckage I think is probably the worst one for us. And anything like a single spot removal we can always get with a duress, as well as maybe just getting out a blossoming defense against a teamer strategy, something like that, to make sure we can kind of lock down our opponents, to make sure that their creatures are going to die whenever we use a Fatal Push or a Walk the Plank. Moving up, we have 2 Harsh Scrutiny, a 1 mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. Choose a non-creature card from it. That player discards that card. Scry 1. So Harsh Scrutiny is probably just going to come in during a control strategy or a more aggro strategy, where we want to make sure we get a Glorybringer out of their hand, or we want to make sure we get a Scarab God out of their hand, because once they hit the battlefield, they are a pain in the butt to deal with. Harsh Scrutiny can help us deal with them, and it's fantastic for that, being at 1 mana. Then next up we have 4 Gifted Aetherborn, a 2 mana 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinker. Now I think this guy is actually probably not a great pick for sideboard play for us, but a 2 mana 2/3 Lifelink Death Toucher is very good for us, being on the curve and being able to get out turn over turn to gain some life, or block like say a Carnage Tyrant or something that's super large against us, to make sure that they die because we need them to die. Gifted Aetherborn does that really well for us, and if they want to spend some removal on a Gifted Aetherborn, more power to them. That's fine. It's going to trigger a Bone Picker for us, or a Bantu the Glorified. Next up, we have 2 Doomfall, a 3 mana sorcery. Choose 1. Target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls, which is fantastic against a god, and target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it, exile that card. So this is again basically a duress for us, or the ability to kill something on the battlefield / exile it, like a Scarab God against a more control matchup. So a lot of the cards in the sideboard here are going to be really good against control, but also good against the tempo decks as well. And then lastly, we have 3 Vraska's Contempt, because again Scarab God is such a big deal, and we also have other planeswalkers in the set like Chandra or Vraska now. Vraska's Contempt is gonna be a great removal spell or exile spell for us, and we gain 2 life. 4 mana instant, exile target creature or planeswalker, you gain 2 life. A very simple and defined removal spell for us, and a fantastic way to like either close the tempo gap against our opponent, or make sure that they don't get any extra value with cards like a Scarab God, things like that. But that is the full 75, guys. Let's go to the list here. On MTG Traders, it's actually coming to about 74 tickets, which is actually not bad for a Pro Tour deck here. Again, the curve is super low. There's only 20 lands in here. And the sideboard is going to be a great way to combat control, tempo, and some decks where we know that they're going to be going a little bit more controlling against us. So I think it's just going to be a fantastic way to kind of combat any kind of deck like that. But I just love it. Overall, though, I really like the deck, and I hope you guys do too. But let me know what you think of the deck. Do you have any comments for it, any kind of changes for it? Again, this is Adam Jensen's list from the Ixalan Pro Tour, and I really liked this list. I wanted to kind of go over it because this one, as well as the Mono White Vampires decks, were the 2 kind of lists that I thought were the most interesting out of Pro Tour. The rest of the list for this week will be like decks I come up with myself, but I thought these 2 lists themselves were actually the most interesting that had came out of Ixalan, that was not you know, a Godfarrow's Gift deck, or just a Round Up Red strategy, or a Teamer or Energy strategy to begin with. But of course, let me know what you think. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a new video on the channel, and when we go live on stream right here on YouTube. But I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.